Surprise, motherfucker!
Doom Eternal is an action-packed, non-stop, adrenaline-fueled ride that had me hooked from start to finish. But with the major success of Doom 2016, the game had a lot of expectations to live up to. So did it? Is Doom Eternal better than Doom 2016? While I was never a huge fan of the original Doom games, I do understand why they are so loved and have great respect for them and their developers, since they are essentially responsible for creating the FPS genre. Doom 2016, on the other hand, is a whole other story. Put simply, I love Doom 2016. The combat, the exploration, the story, the lore, the multiplayer, not so much, but still. Doom 2016 is, to this day, one of my top 10 favourite games of all time. So just like many others, my expectations for its sequel were very high. From the moment that first teaser trailer dropped, I was hooked. I couldn't wait to get my hands on this game. So when it got pushed back, I was initially disappointed, though deep down I knew the game being delayed only meant that its developers knew the game wasn't quite ready for release, and soon came to terms with it. Now that the game is finally out and I have completed the campaign and put a few hours into the multiplayer, I have to ask, was it worth it? To find out, let's start with the most important aspect of a Doom game, the reason people play them, the combat. Doom Eternal's combat is essentially the same as the last game, only it's been turned up to 11. It's bigger, it's better, and to be completely honest, it's nothing short of amazing. Every fight has this rare sort of fluidity to it. The combat is so much faster than the last game, and there's so much more going on at once, yet it still feels smoother. As the Doomslayer, you are essentially controlling a god, and the game does a really good job of making you feel like one. The way you just rip and tear through your enemies makes you feel like an unstoppable force of nature. The game features 8 different guns to destroy your enemies with. Each gun, with the exception of a select few, comes equipped with 2 different weapon mods for you to upgrade and eventually master. While many of these weapons are simply reskin versions of those that appeared in the last game, the mods they come with are different enough to keep them feeling fresh and interesting. The guns in this game are just awesome to use. They feel so powerful. They have this impact to them which makes them feel so satisfying to shoot. Equipment such as frag grenades are much better off this time around, as unlike in the previous games, they are actually useful in combat as they can be used to dispatch groups of weaker enemies. The equipment launcher itself is also just a really cool idea. The new flame belch mechanic is also a great addition, as now you have the ability to farm your enemies for health, ammo, and armor. This means that no matter what situation you find yourself in, you will never be short of resources. Doom Eternal also introduces the ability to perform a Blood Punch, which is essentially a really powerful melee attack which damages enemies in a wider radius. While Blood Punch is a really cool ability, for whatever reason it has replaced normal melee attacks in their entirety, as they no longer deal damage to enemies. While this isn't a huge issue, I must admit I do miss being able to simply melee kill some of the weaker enemies, as now I'm required to expend ammo on them when in previous games I could simply beat them to death. Another great addition to this game is the new destructible demons mechanic. It's just so satisfying to blast a demon with my super shotgun and watch as it literally falls to pieces. It also adds a new strategic layer to combat, as certain demons now have weak points which can be exploited. The new platforming elements are also a welcome addition, as they lead to various jumping puzzle segments which make for a nice change of pace between combat encounters. They also make exploration a lot more engaging. The advanced movement controls such as the double jump and the dash ability are also a great new additions, as they really lend themselves to the increased speed and verticality of combat. Overall, Doom Eternal's gameplay is a vast improvement over the previous game, as it is much more complex and layered. There is simply just more going on, which makes for a much more engaging and challenging experience. Doom Eternal is a hard game. If you make a mistake, it will punish you for it. There is a learning curve here, but once you familiarise yourself with it, you'll become virtually unstoppable. Doom Eternal's campaign is around 20 hours long, which is considerably longer than Doom 2016, which roughly clocks in at around 13 hours. While I do think the story of Doom Eternal is better than the one presented to us in Doom 2016, I do have some issues with how it is presented to us. The developers of Doom Eternal made it very clear that this game was supposed to introduce us to an expanded Doom universe. While the game succeeds at this, it can at first be quite overwhelming. The game wastes no time in thrusting you into the action, and while this is great for getting the player hooked into the gameplay, I found myself a little lost in terms of the story. Specifically during the events of the second mission, where you meet a very important character in Doom's lore, who ultimately turns out to have very little impact on the rest of the game's plot. Although at first I was a little confused, by the end of the game all the pieces had fallen into place and I was able to finally understand what was truly happening. The main issue isn't the story itself, but the way they just thrust you into it can be very jarring, especially with all the new locations you'll be travelling to and characters you'll be meeting. My other issue with how the game's story is presented to us is that most of it is told through various codex entries. While the entries are very well written and are overall quite interesting, towards the end of the game when the story had reached its peak and the ball was well and truly rolling, I did find it a little tedious to have to constantly stop and read the codex. Doom Eternal set out to expand the Doom universe and introduce us to new people and places, the likes of which we had never seen before. The new locations shown to us in this game are absolutely breathtaking. The environmental backdrops of each mission are like nothing I've ever seen before, and the new lore accompanying these locations is very interesting and enjoyable to read. The new characters you'll be meeting throughout this game are also very interesting, which is why I was a little disappointed that we ultimately spent so little time with them. Between missions, you'll be travelling to the game's hub, the Fortress of Doom. This is a mechanic which has never been used in a Doom game before, so I was initially hesitant about the idea, but quickly came around to it after my first visit. The Fortress of Doom is just so badass. It's basically the Doomslayer's personal man cave. It acts as a place to showcase the various collectibles you've obtained on your journey, while also hiding a few for you to find. The fortress also comes equipped with your own demon punishing prison, the Ripatorium. This is essentially a training room which allows you to just sit back and slay some demons as you so please. As I mentioned before, the game features various collectibles for you to find. These include toy versions of the demons you fight, as well as various music albums which you can actually listen to while aboard the fortress. There are also a series of cheat codes to be found. How does the game's multiplayer pan out? Well, to put it bluntly, it's kind of meh. While I do feel like it's an improvement over the last games, I don't think it's really anything special either. Don't get me wrong, it's fun and it has potential, but I still feel like it has a ways to go before I can really get into it. The multiplayer matches consist of 3 players, one of which controls a fully decked out Doomslayer and the other 2 control demons. To win a round of which there are 3, the demons must kill the Doomslayer, or alternatively, the Doomslayer must kill both demons before the other is given a chance to respawn. Much like in the campaign, playing as the Doomslayer feels amazing. However, I have to admit I didn't really enjoy my time playing as the demons. To me they felt a little underpowered and clunky, but that's just my opinion. Personally, I feel like a buff to the player demons as well as the addition of some other game modes would really help to improve the multiplayer. I would also like to see the return of Doom 2016's Snap Map feature, as I personally found that creating my own missions and playing other people's was thoroughly enjoyable, and I think it would really help to grow the online Doom community. The game also features tons of upgrades you can find to make yourself even more powerful. These include Sentinel Crystals, which can not only be used to increase your health, ammo capacity and armor, but can also lead to various passive bonuses. Praetor suit tokens make a return and can be used to purchase various upgrades for your suit. Ruins also make a return, however they are much easier to obtain as you no longer have to complete any trials. The game also features a few side activities for you to complete along the way. These include secret encounters which have you kill a certain amount of demons in a limited time, and Slayer Gates, which are extremely challenging combat encounters that reward you with Empyrean keys. These keys then allow you to unlock a secret reward, which I won't spoil for those who don't know. Doom Eternal's visuals are absolutely beautiful. The detail in the game's textures and the epic proportions of the game's stunning backdrops all work in tandem to create a truly awesome atmosphere. The game's audio quality is nothing to shrug at either. Much like the last game, the music is spectacular. It really adds to the adrenaline-pumping nature of combat. The ambient noises and the sounds made by your guns and the demons you are shooting at make the game feel that much more impactful. The game also performs extremely well. It is very smooth to play. I only really encountered a noticeable drop in performance once or twice. As for any bugs or glitches with the game, I only came across a few. I found that sometimes the Ripatorium outright refused to let me use it, and on more than one occasion I had to reload to a previous checkpoint as the game refused to let me progress to the next area despite having killed all the enemies. So with all that said and done, is Doom Eternal better than Doom 2016? In my humble opinion, yes it is. Doom Eternal is an amazing game which not only recaptures the awesomeness of the last game but simultaneously adds to it and breathes new life into the franchise. Because of this, I'm going to give Doom Eternal a well-deserved 10 out of 10. Whether you're a Doom fan or not, I highly recommend picking up a copy and giving it a shot. I can assure you, you won't regret it. Thank you so much for watching, subscribe if you want to see more, stay safe and have a great day.